Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Liam's Library. Wasn't going to do a review today, and I apologise for yesterday's review being so bleak. It wasn't actually a review, it was a eulogy to a friend of mine. But today we're back on track. Especially back on track, seeing as that we're talking about my favourite writer of all time. And this is not so much a movie review as it is a book to film review. Now, years ago, I read a Stephen King book called Full Dark, No Stars. And I got it for Christmas off an ex of mine, and I didn't know what to expect. You know, Stephen King in his older age is a bit hit and miss. Not so much hit and miss. I mean, like, is he going to write a serious novel? Is he going to write, like, a dark tale novel? Is he going to write a full-blown fucking horror novel or something in between? Now, Full Dark, No Stars pulled no punches. It was 4 novellas, all tied together loosely with the theme of revenge. Now, okay, so every time I watch it, so I've just finished watching 1922, the Zach Hilditch film, the Zach Hilditch, you know, interpretation of the novella 1922 by Stephen King, and in that book, there's 4 novellas. Now, there's 3 of them that have been made into films. So, Big Driver's been made into a film. I haven't seen that. A Good Marriage has. I have seen that. The book is terrifying, so R-rated and headfucky and just gruesome. And the movie was, oh, it was fucking terrible. Anthony LaPaglia as Beatty, it sucked. It sucked, and I fucking hated it. But 1922 being the first novella in this series of novellas in this book collection is terrifying, and it really sets the mood for what you're in for. Especially, it's a period piece. It takes place in 1922. So, in 1922, I murdered my wife. Now, this is Thomas Jane as their lead actor. Wilfred James is a farmer whose wife hates the country life, hates the farming life, and her father left her the acreage, so she's well within her rights to sell it, but the farmer doesn't want to sell, and that's Thomas Jane, and he's narrating this movie. Now, it starts off with him in a hotel with a big beard, looking terrible, all hunched over, and looking like fucking shifty eyes, like something's going on. First thing he does when he gets to the hotel is put his head against the wall and listen, and what he hears is rats in the walls. So, like, this is a crime drama, apparently, according to Netflix. It's not. It's a full-blown Stephen King fucking screamer. And I had a great time reading this book, as well as I've had a great time watching this movie over and over again. So, I'm going to address the problems first. I'm on a lot of horror pages on Facebook. I tell you this all the time. The big thing, every time someone brings up 1922, what did people think? Everyone always says, oh, it was just like mumbling bullshit. I couldn't understand half of what he was saying. Subtitles, man. Click the fucking subtitle button and read what's being fucking said. I do it with every single movie I watch. My favourite horror movies are subtitle movies, normally from South Korea. Apart from that, just click the subtitle button. You know, if you can't read, oh, well, bummer. This really clever fucking crime drama / horror, 1922, isn't for you. Because that accent he's putting on is perfect for the times, and Thomas Jane kills it. Fucking kills it. So, like, yeah, you know, you're missing out if you're just too fucking stubborn to hit the subtitle button. Let's move along. Okay, at the start, I thought it might have been a bit too easy, right? So, the wife wants to sell the farm, the husband doesn't. They have a teenage son, he's 14. So, the dad thinks the only way to fix this whole problem is to murder the wife, right? Now, in the book, this scene is fucking horrifying. So he convinces the son, like, we're going to kill your mum. And, you know, the mum is a bitch of a thing. She is a bitch of a thing. She's fucking rude, she's coarse, she doesn't give a fuck about the son's, what the son wants, and she just wants the big city. So we're supposed to hate her. You know, we're supposed to hate her. In the end, I don't know if we hate her. Fuck, she's a bit of a victim. So he convinces his son to go along with the murder of the son's mother and his own wife. And they do it. And they botch it. They don't botch it. It just Just like in the book, it's not easy to fucking sneak up on someone when they're asleep and drunk and cut their fucking throat. It's a blood-fueled fucking horrific scene where they finally have to slash, and then they get blood fucking everywhere, and it takes a while to clean it up. So it's pretty mental. The soundtrack is really dark, and the soundtrack really, to me, is like the kind of music you're hearing when you're reading the book Full Dark, No Stars. I don't know if you've ever read 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King, but that's 4 horror novels in one. And even that, Stephen King in the 90s, when he was doing his real horror stuff, I don't think it's got anything on Full Dark, No Stars. That book is fucking dark, man. It's fucking heavy. There's one part in every novella that just, it's nearly too much. I've been reading horror since I was a little kid. And I remember getting to the very end of the last novella in this collection, and it's called A Good Marriage. And the movie doesn't do it justice, so don't bother about watching the movie A Good Marriage. Go read the book. In the end of Good Marriage, something happens, like on the second last page, that you're just like, fucking what? And I was thinking, shit, like, am I getting too old for this? Like, am I getting too queasy for this shit? Nah, at the end, there's an afterword by Stephen King saying, like, some of this might have been hard to read. It was hard to write. So, like, even he, on purpose, he admits what he'd done. He done it on purpose. This book is to shock the fuck out of you. And so, what Zach Hilditch did here, writing and directing this movie, he really gave it exactly the treatment that it needed. So so definitely check out 1922. I'm going to say that a few times. So the rats, okay. He kills his wife. The son helps kill the mother. They chuck her in a well out the back. Now, the next time he goes to look in, there's all these big rats that have come through a pipe that obviously gets some water in, you know, some water flow from the fields, and some rats are just crawling into her, and the visuals are fucking demonic. Like, rats are breaking her jaw and climbing their way out. And this is a Netflix original, so, oosh, man, years ago, this would have been a hard R rating. It's fucking full on. So that's what happens, and so they decide they're gonna pretend like a cow has fallen in the well. So, and you get to see that, and they have to put a bullet in the cow. So already you're like, fuck, poor cow. I've seen that on Facebook sites talking about, yeah, I like 1922, but poor cow. So, well, poor wife. Okay. So the son is a really good actor. He starts off kind of mainstream and kind of just doing what you think a character like that should be doing, but eventually it builds up. The guilt of killing his mother builds up, and they both just start getting fucked with. Now, I think I'm gonna, like, I don't think I'm gonna fuck with all these notes that I've made while watching this movie. I think I'm just gonna talk about the feel of the film. Now, like, it is so dark, and he constantly talks about how murder is a sin. Murder is damnation, but murder is also work. They are constantly trying to cover up for this one murder that took 3 minutes. And then, okay, so, like, we are in a crime drama. You know, they killed someone and they're trying to get rid of the body. But this is a Stephen King novel. This is a Stephen King adaptation. So he starts seeing visions of his dead wife, all cut up, fucking jagged slices through her throat, and all the rats, right, that have been feasting on her down the well, they start making an appearance through the movie. They start being in the film. They start attacking him. They start attacking the cows in the barn, and they're just there, you know what I mean? Now, the rats are a metaphor for his guilt, of course, but if this was just a crime movie, the rats would just kind of be in the background. But this is a Stephen King movie, so the rats are really fucking there. They are, man. The rats are there, and this is a supernatural horror story. It is, as far as I'm concerned. This is not just going on in his mind, even though in the book, more than the movie, it explains that it is all going on in his head. We'll get to that. So, the rats, right? So, alright. So, graveyard rats, right? So, he's writing a confession. Now, this is in 1930, so 8 years after all this happens. This happens in 1922, okay? That's why the story's called 1922. It's a period piece. But he's writing the confession in 1930 in a hotel in Omaha. Now, all the time that he's writing this confession, there are rats in the walls, and they're actually breaking through. So, metaphor, his guilt is getting him. He can't escape it, but it's not his guilt. It's fucking rats. It's graveyard rats. It's the rats that fucking fed on his wife, and now it's going to feed on him, and they're coming after him, and so is his dead wife. Now, the son ends up, okay, so in 1922, in the middle of this film, the son ends up knocking up the neighbor's daughter. They fall in love, whatever. 1922, the daughter's got to go off to some Catholic school. And then they go off on the run, and they do this full Bonnie and Clyde, Charlie Starkweather sort of a thing, where they start holding up fucking, convenience stores and stuff like that. And eventually, while she's pregnant, they shoot too many people, they kill too many people, and she gets shot. And she loses the baby, and they're in some fucking burnt out old shack while it's snowing outside, and the teenage girl dies. And she fucking dies, and the baby dies, and it's fucking horrible, and that's just like the book. But the thing is, the only reason Thomas Jane, the main character, knows this is because his dead wife comes back. And all of a sudden, he's sitting there in the freezing cold in his house, and the door starts swinging open, and this creepy jazz music comes through. And the first thing I'm thinking is like, hello, The Shining. Like this creepy jazz music, ghosts, dead bodies. The Shining, we're watching a Stephen King movie. But then all of a sudden, it's not like he catches a glimpse of her. She's just walking through the house, covered in blood, and she's coming for him. And he falls down the fucking stairs into the basement, and her dead body just brushes past the camera. Now that reminded me of Takashi Shimizu's Japanese horror movie, The Grudge, which is called Ju-On, which is my scariest movie I've ever seen. And I've never really seen an Americanized movie unless it's a rip-off of The Grudge, where the zombie isn't just like blah, but actually is just like a reanimated corpse, possibly ghost, most probably ghost, actually brushing past the camera enough to even get blood on the lens. That is fucking The Grudge. I think this is the closest Stephen King has ever come to doing his own version of The Grudge, which made me so happy. Because The Grudge is one of my favourite fucking horror movies of all time. So, 1922, there's a bit of Grudge in there. There really, really is. Takashi Shimizu should give him a thumbs up for that. Now, Cursed by Sin, rah rah rah. Now, okay, so this whole page is The Grudge. Now, the dead wife, when he falls down to the bottom of the stairs, the dead wife with a ripped open throat, she tells him exactly what happens to their son when he's on the run. Now, he can't possibly know any of this, and it happens just like that in the book. She tells him secrets only a dead woman could know. And that's fucking terrifying. And even when he's like, enough, I don't want to hear anymore, just kill me, she stops. And then tells him more. Tells him about the dead baby. Tells him about how they fucking died that way. Then the son's body gets shipped back to him, trained back to him on the railway line, as bodies did back in that period. And the doctor doesn't even give him a heads up. So there's a body, it's his son on the fucking slab, and it's his job to identify the body. And we get to see it. We pull the sheet back, and this thing has been gnawed at by rats. It's like, fuck. And the doctor says, I'm sorry, the rats got to him. And Thomas Jane's like, fuck. He expected to see a dead son with a bullet in him, but not fucking a rat gnawed, and this thing is horrible. It's hard to even look at. This is a heavy review, I apologise. 1922 is a heavy movie. It's an even heavier novella. Full Dark, No Stars is an even more intense Stephen King fucking novel collection. Go out and read it. It will blow your mind if you're a horror fan. Fuck me. It's a screamer. It makes Revival look like a Disney. Not really, but maybe. Now, think about this. Think about what Stephen King was writing back in the early 2000s. He was writing Insomnia. He was writing Hearts at Atlantis. They're good books, don't get me wrong. But look at what he's doing in the last 6 years. Revival, The Outsider, Full Dark, No Stars. These things are screamers. These are full-blown, unapologetic horror novels. And they're fantastic. You know, we're getting adaptions of all this stuff. It's like he had his little hiatus where he's like, all right, I needed to get these serious books out of me. Now it's time to just write whatever I want. It's the new golden age of King, and it's fantastic. I for one, am really thankful for it. So like I said, this would have got a hard R rating back in the day. Now, there's a difference. Now, I think I've said enough. So, in the book, when the dead wife comes out of the well and starts fucking tormenting him, the rats actually crawl up her dress and animate her body and move her lips with dead rats in her head. Now, maybe they couldn't do that with special effects and make it look real enough, but in the book, it's almost like she's a reverse marionette, like the rats are using her dead body to walk around. That freaked me out, man. That freaked me out. Now, see, in this, you know, he goes to his son's funeral and there's no one else there. And when he looks behind, his dead wife's sitting there. Throat slit open, rats crawling all over her. Very disturbing. But it's got nothing on the imagery that Stephen King puts in that book, 1922, where the rats are actually moving her around as if she's a puppet. Very intense. Okay, so he's finished his confession. This guy, Wilfred James, is sitting in the hotel room. He's like, in 1922, I killed my wife. This, and this. There we go, that's it. And he's like, in the end, we all get caught. He stands up and turns around, and there's his rat-tuned son, his wife that's just cut up, and the pregnant chick, and the son's got a knife, and they're like, you know, we'll make it quick, Dad. It won't hurt, just like what he said about the wife. And it just ends there. So, in the movie, it's almost like it's saying, yeah, this happened. This is supernatural now. He went through all of this, and the dead, the corpses, the people that he wronged got revenge on him in the end, which ties close to the theme of the book. Yeah, in the book, that happens, but it cuts off there in the book, and then we get a newspaper clipping of a man that chews himself to death in a hotel room. Now, it says that he used his own teeth for that. So did the rats do it, or did Wilfred James do it? Did he chew himself to death because the guilt was what the rats were? Was he the guilt? Like, was he just constantly ragging on himself and attacking himself that much that he ended up nearly eating himself in this hotel room? Or is this a Stephen King story, and were the rats really there, and did they fucking eat him up with a bunch of dead bodies? That is one morbid ending to a review, but I always knew it would be. So, okay, that's the end of 1922. I don't know what I'm going to do in a couple of days, but I am going to give you another review, so please stay tuned. Read some scary fucking books in these scary fucking times. Please, watch some great movies, and please, please, please take care of one another. See you, bye.